Okay, I'd like to call this meeting of Municipal Airport Authority, City of Fargo on this Tuesday, April 23rd, 2024 to order. And roll call, please.
Bashani. Here. Bird.
Here.
Concord.
Here.
Eckler.
Here.
Here. And approve the minutes of the regular meeting held April 9, 2024. Is there a motion?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Number 2, approve the airport vouchers totaling $379,734.11. Is there a motion?
So moved.
There is a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
There is a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Bashani.
Yes.
Bird.
Us.
Concord.
Aye.
Eckler.
Aye.
Aye. Approve individual vouchers A through K. Is there a motion? There is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Roll call, please.
Bashani. Yes. Bird.
Aye.
Concord.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And number 4, welcome our new board member, Dr. Dean Brashani. Welcome, sir. Glad to have you on board.
Do we need a motion on
that? Yeah, free coffee. Very good. And do you want to vote on that, did you say, Rick? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, number 5, receive update regarding parking structure and elevated walkway project and additional parking plan. And authorize award of GMP number 1 for the precast and parking structure of $16,262,941. That's a whole lot of.
Good morning, board. Yeah, so our first order of business this morning is to vote on that. We kind of presented that particular number last meeting, and like I said before, we were just a little under $200,000 over our budget for precast alone. So we need a motion and to approve that dollar amount so we can get that out to the precasters.
Okay, I'm gonna call for a roll call on that. Is there a motion to approve first?
I'll make the motion to approve, but I'd like to have discussion after you get a second.
Okay. Motion's been made, is there a second? Motion's been made and seconded, discussion.
Well, Mr. Chairman, Terry, just to kind of bring us up to speed again, the 2 questions that we're tracking is our overall budget and our overall schedule. So if you could just kind of explain, how that fits in with what we laid out before, just give a little recap on that.
Right. I was actually going to do that right after you guys did this. So we are.
Get it first and then vote.
That's fine. So we actually bid our second GMP package last Tuesday, and that was for footings and foundations. We will be bringing that to the board the next board meeting for a GMP, and that actually, we think that came in a little less than our estimate actually. There's a lots of different things on that particular piece, but so there's some qualifications that McGuff is doing right now. So we'll have that for you, and we believe we're going to save some money on that. Then we're sending out a bid tomorrow actually for the third and last final package, and that's basically mechanical, electrical, some architectural things, and miscellaneous stuff that we don't have in the other 2. So that will go out tomorrow, and we'll be bidding that on the 16th of May. We're looking at starting the project sometime getting cars out of the parking ramp soon after our out of the short-term lot soon after our groundbreaking. So roughly May 19th, I believe, and then we would actually start putting up barriers and all the stuff that we need to do to commence work on a demo of the parking lot and footings and foundations pretty much the first week in June. So we'll end up having a third GMP coming to you, I believe, on the 16th of May, and then we would probably bring the final GMP to you on, I think it's the 28th of May. So we're on track, we're on schedule. We wanted to make sure we tried to accommodate Memorial Day weekend before we started anything big, and so we're right on the money right now.
Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote please.
Shoshana? Yes. Burke?
Aye.
Cuthbert? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Number 6, receive update on SP Plus regarding shuttle and valet options.
Burke, are you on?
I am. Can you see me?
Go ahead, Greg.
Can't see her.
You can't see me?
Can hear you.
Correct.
There you are. We
There
see
you
you.
go.
All right, perfect. And you're able to see my screen okay?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, thank you. So yeah, just to pick back up from our last discussion regarding shuttle services for the temporary lot during construction, but also the valet option. I did put some numbers together, which I provided the backup to the team just this morning, so they haven't had a chance to really digest how we arrived at the numbers, but I do want to go over this at a high level with you, just so you can kind of have an idea of what we're looking at. So with respects to the valet operation, I think you've seen this slide before from the last meeting. The idea would be to take a portion of the East Economy lot and use that as the staging area, if you will, to park the valet vehicles. And we're looking at possible 100 spaces pulling out of that lot and just barricading that area in. It's a good proximity to the front of the terminal to allow the drivers or the attendants to make it back to their post and collect the additional vehicles that are pulling up to request valet service. So that's the reason for that ideal location that you see here at the east side of this map right here. Obviously, the Sphere on-demand solution would be leveraged in the temporary lot. It doesn't require any infrastructure, any parks relocation or parks acquisition. This is just a sign procurement. We place the signs out. You scan this QR code that you see in your bottom right corner. You make your payment that way. All your receipts, everything is emailed or text to you following your stay. And then we can obviously enforce it to whatever liking that you guys want to do with respects to, we know who's supposed to be in the lot based off of them scanning the QR code and who didn't pay along the way, so we can ticket them, remind them nicely, and just keep sending them messages saying, we need you to pay for your stay as well. This being the shuttle lot, we decided to kind of keep the rate, or recommend keeping the rate at $9, which is your economy price. Even though it's a little farther from the terminal, we are shuttling the passengers there, so that'll help kind of recoup some of that cost with the shuttle operation, since there is no fee to ride the shuttle, given that's 100% at the airport's cost. So that was the recommendation, to keep that fee the same and don't lessen the fee just because it's a little farther from the terminal. With respects to projections and just cost, again, at a high level, $28 per day is the valet price point, but again, that's flexible. That's just a number that we arrived at based off of some of the transportation studies we've done recently, where we asked the valet questions, but also based off the price point that you'll have on the garage once you open the garage next year. Again, 100 spaces is what we're thinking of starting out with, and seeing how successful this is. That's the revenue you see, 53,000 is a projection. Comparing that to short-term lot for at least the first 2 months of this year, you can see there what the short-term lot was doing. But keep in mind, this is not intended just to 100% replace the revenue for short-term, because you're going to have some subsidy from the temporary economy lot as well to help with that, recoup some of that revenue. This is really mainly to make sure that you continue to be engaged with that passenger that's not as price sensitive as the others that pay for the economy product and want that, I call it white glove delivery or service, if you will, that parking short term today. And so that's really what Valet is intended to do in this particular situation. The OpEx costs in the bottom right corner are approximately $23,000 per month. That's payroll, technology, the management fee, which includes the insurance, and so forth. Again, there's a breakdown on the budget that we can share with you, after this meeting. We intend to leverage the reservation platform. This means just like you can make a reservation for the economy lot, the long-term lot, and the short-term lot today, we want you to be able to make a reservation for your valet stay as well. And that helps our operational team know who's coming in, but it also continue to give you that, again, concierge type experience where you can go online and plan ahead and book your valet rental. Shuttle OpEx costs, we're looking at 2 shuttles, approximately 20 hours per day. The annual budget is just short of $300,000, $13,000 per month. This accounts for renting the shuttles for about 11 and a half to 12 months. There's a vendor we work with at other locations that does rentals. As I'm sure you've heard, shuttles are really hard to come by right now, but we do have a pretty good relationship with this vendor. One other option, though, is we actually have one of our clients that are looking to some of the fleet in their permanent shuttle operation. So we're definitely okay with engaging them to see if they have any interest in potentially, I call it loaning or leasing out their shuttles as well, which would be done through us. So that's definitely an option as well, which may reduce some of this OpEx cost on the shuttle side. But yeah, everything is fuel, payroll, and so forth based off the current rates of what shuttle drivers are being paid today, which is $17.25 or so in this general area per hour. That's about it on that. I'll definitely entertain any questions, and again, I'll send out the line item budget to the group.
Mr. Chairman? Greg, we talked about it last time. We don't really have any examples of the shuttle being used in airports similar to ours. Is there a way that if the valet part is not working, that lot could be converted to a self-serve lot?
The valet staging area of the economy lot?
Yeah.
Well, I think we would just revert back to what it is today, which is, the 363 spaces in the East Economy lot would just be economy parking, since they have parks on that lot today. If you're speaking about the temporary lot, then yeah, that lot's going to already be 100% self-service. You just pull in free egress and ingress and scan the QR code. We do have Sioux Falls, we currently run the shuttle operation, and we used to run it seasonally just in the winter months, but once they started construction on their garage or their ramp, we have been running it year round. And so that would be the closest example to a shuttle operation, I guess, close to Fargo.
Yeah, the limited time that the shuttle operation here, the most common comment I heard was they could never find it. So it just didn't generate any ridership. So
You're right. It definitely didn't, gain as much traction as we thought it would. This time around, I think we did talk about last meeting some of the messaging that we would need to get out in front of. I did include some marketing dollars in the line item budget for this that's included in that number on your slide right there. Something similar to what we did with Omaha to kind of educate the passengers and let them know how to catch the shuttle, so to speak, and what the purpose of it is. But no, I think this time around, we would definitely need to probably run 2 at the same time particularly during our peak hours, which is, early morning and afternoon or so.
Can you go back to the slide with the temporary parking lot there?
Sure.
The staging area, how many spots is that in the valley?
I'm carving out, I would say we would carve out 100 spaces just because it's part of the temporary walkway for construction. You can still, again, get back from there once we drop the vehicles off.
You're saying that's existing?
That's existing, yeah. That's where the East Economy Lot is today.
Okay. So that will be mixed, the economy and ballet, is that?
Right, we would barricade it off just to make sure that, we don't have transient parkers parking with the valet vehicles. But the idea is to take some of those spaces, since it's your lowest price parking product, $9 per day, and try to convert that into $28 per day. 100 of those spaces into $28 per day.
So how many runners are you anticipating having in the ballet service?
It would be, staggered, but in the morning hours, definitely a minimum of 2 at a time, but we've staffed a location of this size before with anywhere between 5 to 6 runners. But it just really depends. They would be scheduled around the flight times and so forth.
Rick?
Just a couple questions, Greg. I'm just thinking out loud, if that's our valet staging area, we might want to move it to the south end of that economy lot. If we're running back and forth anyhow, that way our normal customers who want to park over there, they're not getting pushed farther back. Just a comment. Then the other thing that I would like to ask you about is on the far left side of the screen, where the parking for the rental cars is at.
Mm-hmm.
I have never seen that lot full in the last year and a half. And I'm just thinking, one of the things we're trying to do here is replace 230 parking stalls, right? I mean, that's kind of our objective. So, I'm just thinking, taking 100 spaces out of some place that's paying rent doesn't really increase our number of parking spaces, but my thought was maybe that rental parking lot back there, that might be a way to use that for valet as well. Simply because it's not generating any revenue for us beyond the parking. And so I think the other thing I'd like to see here is what is our net revenue expense here? And so we have what we're making now on the short-term lot. And then what I'd like to see is you've got revenue and expenses, but it's a little bit jumbled up. It might be, there might be another way for us providing. Anyway, I'm just trying to think, is there another way, how expensive is that going to be, and is there another alternative that we could use? So I guess it's too many questions. So the one question, I guess, is there an option for the rental car parking lot to be used for valet?
I know we discussed using the rental car lot for transient parking, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sean, the appetite was to not really relinquish that space by the rental car companies. Is that correct?
Well, if Bernie Ness were here, he would tell you that they're really close to asking us to expand that overflow lot. You don't see it when it's full. I mean, it's full often.
Well, then it might make sense to expand that lot rather than build a temporary lot out here. Maybe you expand it by 100 stalls now, and then, I don't know, I'm just trying to think, how can we do something that gets us more stalls, at the same time, if we're putting money into it, we're getting something in return. Could that lot just be expanded to the north there?
That's what's on there.
Or is that a holding pond to the north? I can't tell.
it's a holding pond, but it is on the master plan, so it's being stored.
And during construction, at least, I mean, this temporary lot gets you your stall count back to where you're at now. It's at a lower daily amount, granted, $9 per day compared to 22. But that's when you try to kick in valet to augment that as well, to try to assist with that delta between, that we showed on this slide as well.
So how many new spots will be in that overflow parking lot?
I thought it was 360 or so, somewhere around that, 350, 360.
And how many are in the temporary lot now? Or the short-term lot? There were.
Short term is 238.
Yeah, so I mean, my question is, really what we're trying to accomplish is to cover 238 or 240 during this construction period. As inexpensively as we can, but still providing great customer service, if you will. So it seems like we're going above and beyond.
Hey,
Any other
Rick,
discussion?
excuse me, just 1 minute. Actually, what Gregory is saying is correct. There is only 238 stalls in short term, but we end up affecting, because of fences and construction stuff, we end up affecting about 340 stalls. So we're trying to get that number be closer to what we were technically interrupted, because we're taking some stalls out of the long term as well when we fence everything off and stuff. So,
Well, so Mr. Chairman, that makes sense. So we're really eliminating 340 stalls. That temporary lot of 350 kind of covers that. And so really the valet, I mean, I think we see how that works, but we're not reducing the overall number of stalls if we end up not doing the valet.
That's correct.
Correct.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I know we're gonna get paid for time here on the whole project, but I do like your idea, Rick. If we're putting down temporary pavement, could it be permanent pavement? And if rental car is gonna be looking for additional space, hate to put down temporary pavement, tear it up and then come back. So I wonder if that is a possibility that could be discussed. And, worked in, because that would work for, Greg, expanding that lot to the north would work for valet, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. I mean, you still have the proximity to get the runners back to the staging area for drop-offs and returns.
Mr. Chairman and Greg, I see that, I understand your justification in taking the East Economy 100 spaces and for valet as far as expediency, but it would be nice if, since you're gonna have multiple runners and I assume they're gonna have vehicles to run back and forth, it'd be nice if the valet was in the overflow lot so that we're not inconveniencing those 100 cars, so that at least we still have more space that people can walk to the terminal. And I remember one of the parking surveys, or one of the studies, they said they didn't want to have, I believe, more than 7 minutes, correct me if I'm wrong, it was a long time ago, where people have to wait for shuttles. And so was the $2.99, was that for 2 shuttles? And what's your time estimate that it would take to get back and forth?
Yeah, this would definitely warrant a 7-minute tops, and that's kind of what we discussed last meeting, was a 7-minute headway time would be the target time. Most times we should be under that, but worst case with loading a large incoming or flight from baggage claim, it may take about 7 minutes or so to get back and unload that shuttle and load the next one. Which is why during our peak times we would run 2 shuttles, and during our non-peak times we would run 1. To answer your question about the the reason we chose this location is that we would not have vehicles that would be able to transport the runners back and forth. And so again, in order to make sure we can service the customer that's paying the highest price of $28 per day, because we also don't want to upset them as well with valet, and have no one there to stage to accept their vehicle. Proximity was key as well, but we wanted to also choose the lowest price parking product, the car park that you have in the economy. Since that is 100% shuttle lot, I don't really envision most days people walking that. We thought it would be okay to leave that lot alone, the overflow lot, since it will be served by a shuttle.
So your runners really are running.
They really are running, and it's so much logistics if you try to transport them back and forth, and that's going to increase your cost, which is going to hurt your profit margin, because not a vehicle, you got to fuel the vehicle, and you got to put a vehicle on each end and have somebody transporting the person back and forth, and it erodes the revenue that you're trying to collect.
Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I have one more question, Greg. So I know that Sioux Falls is going through this process now, and I've seen some of their media just saying, find a different place to park while we're going through this construction process. Like they're encouraging people to not park at the airport. When we pay for the construction of the temporary lot and all the other expenses that go into providing temporary parking, will we be breaking even? I like the idea of serving our customers and not encouraging them to not park at the airport.
Yeah, we really was, we tried our best to talk them out of discouraging passengers to find another way. But at the end of the day, it was better than having passengers arrive and not have a place to park. So that's kind of the catch-22 they were in. They early on they wanted valet. They wanted to do valet. And let me be clear, I'm not a proponent of it either way. I'm just putting this option out there. We're trying to make sure we continue to be engaged with that person that's willing to pay and wants that proximity of being close to the terminal. But the reason they didn't go forth with it was mainly because they didn't have any staging area whatsoever. And again, we weren't able to transport the runners back and forth, so they were just really strapped for space, which is why they added on to their economy lot about 4 months into construction. One thing they didn't have that you have is a mature reservation solution. They added reservations after they started this project, and so they didn't have that going into the construction of this project. You have a very mature product in that it's been around for 2+ years, and so a lot of your passengers know to plan in advance and make a reservation and so forth, and that's why we want to continue that with whatever we add to the parking product. So that's an advantage you have that they didn't, which is why they kind of had to pivot and tell people to take a TNC, get dropped off, or do something different. But we cringed at it because we hate to shift the passenger because you may not be able to really get them back. But at the same time, we also understood the position. They didn't want anybody just parking their car up front and catching the flight even.
Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd just be interested in Rick's idea that we have time, and can we look at adding that north extension to the rental car and using that as part of this? I'd just like to know what our options there.
Well, that would be an interesting idea, except that is a holding pond, and it would just, take forever to get it done. Probably as long to get that done as it would be to build the parking ramp. Because you're gonna have to have, if I'm not mistaken, a full-blown environmental investigation on it.
That's what I'm looking for, is just the information, if that's what it is, but I'm not guessing. But if Sean says it's in the long-range plan, just saying it's an option that we should look at.
maybe an option, but can we afford it now?
But again, that, just gathering the information here is what we need to make a decision.
One piece of information that we should relay to you, again, if Bernie was here or any of the other car people, they were really concerned about congestion with regular patrons to the airport versus their staff running through that area. And so part of the not wanting to let their lot be used for parking was also a safety issue and a couple other things with regards to logistics with their operation. So I don't think they're going to be super excited about it, but that would be somebody we should probably talk to.
Mr. Chairman, and I think also if we're considering it, we have to remember that that could be rental, that could generate revenue from renting the space to rental cars as well to help offset the cost of it. If we built it, it could generate revenue from renting it to the rental cars eventually.
Correct.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I just look at that parking lot, there's 55 spaces in each row and there's 6 rows. And we don't want to shorten them, but if we could, again, add parking rather than without losing existing parking, I think that's kind of our overall goal. And also, I mean, again, I know this is probably concerns people, but just the parking lot by the tower there, it's always been open. You know, and there's 55 to 70 spots there that have been open. And again, all of these groups are part of this expansion and they're all going to benefit from the new parking ramp and the expanded terminal. And I just think if there would be 150 stalls where we didn't have to build an overflow lot for that or take away the parking, that might be better for the airport. But I like what you laid out here, but those are some things that would be good to kind of think about.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? If not, we'll go on to item number 7.
Thank you, Greg.
My pleasure.
Receive update regarding passenger terminal expansion project. Who's up?
That would be me. Good morning, everybody. So just update on the terminal. Things are moving along in the background. Hopefully, you all have heard rumblings of the groundbreaking we have scheduled and being developed for Wednesday, May 29th at 10 a.m. So mark that on your calendars. Flint Group is putting together the events and setting all the details up. And we have regular meetings with them just to make sure everybody's all set up. So with that, prior to that, we're still on schedule for getting the mobilized. May 6th is the target date to start putting fencing up, creating kind of the construction perimeter around the addition. May 20th, the tug path is going to be rerouted, and we've been working closely with the airport and the airlines on setting that up. For the elevator completion date is on schedule. We're still shooting for mid-May, and just on the background on the addition. McGuff is getting submittals together for the foundations and the structure, and me and Hunt will be seeing those coming through soon. So that's the schedule, an overview of the schedule. For the budget. For the budget, we have bids due this Thursday. For GMP3. GMP3 is the remainder of the addition. And then the only piece after that is the renovation GMP. that'll be rolled into the contract January of 2025. So the remainder of the addition, we'll get bids in the end of the week here. And then we got to go through the process of qualifying those bids, and then we'll be going through to coming to you with the number right around June 11th. That's our target date to get approval on that. So far, we've been meeting with Tana and Tom Schauer and Leibowitz and Horton, coordinating numbers. We're all looking good on that front. We're gonna reevaluate costs and cash flow after this round of budgets, or after this round of bidding. So those numbers will be updated at that time, and I'll provide you an update once we get those together. So that is all I have as far as an update. We'll know a lot more after this week. Exciting times. Any questions?
Mr. Questions?
Sean,
Okay.
Sean, I know our CFO is working on a model. We have that model finalized, or at least one of the data.
Tana's on there, so that model we reviewed yesterday with the whole team. So Tana, if you have any update you want to provide, it's.
Hi, good morning. Actually, I will show it, but it's very, very scary to see. Let me find where I can share. All right, so can everybody see the screen?
Yes.
So this is very scary, but the model does include, at this point, and like we say, it is a fluid model, so it changes every day. Anytime we get any updated information, it changes. So this model is taking into account any of the funding that we're estimating coming in. It takes,
Try and increase the size.
let's see here.
Sure, it's possible.
Does that help?
Mr. Chairman,
Okay.
Tana, just a quick fly through here, but I think it would probably help us to have an in-service presentation where we might have hard copy in front of us so we can kind of follow along. Maybe that could be scheduled the next meeting.
Sure, and we did talk about that yesterday when we met as a smaller group. But this is the overall model. It's kind of overall encompassing of the airport. And like we said yesterday, it's on a very granular model, so it contains a ton of information. And what we're going to work on is, once we get updated numbers and stuff from Brandon, we are going to put this into, like, every project has like 3 lines. So if you guys can get just a brief summary of each project, the budget, the cost, just give you a quick snapshot of the summary. So we can have something like that ready for next board meeting. But what we're tracking right now is every project, not just the terminal and the parking, but any of the other airport projects that they have, anything. So every project from now until we're at least out through 2027 and beyond. So we're tracking costs, budgets, everything like that. And we can provide an update at the next board meeting that just kind of gives you a snapshot of the overall, the terminal, and the parking where we're at.
Mr. Chairman, and you're also working on a dashboard for us to kind of work off too on the overall finances.
Right, and we have worked with Rick Berg to just kind of give a snapshot of some things he's wanted to see, like cash on hand, just a few things like that we can include with your financial packet next time too, for the board to take a look at, and then know that it's constantly changing. So if there's something you want to tweak or another chart or a graph that you want to see, we can constantly be changing things out to give you what's important to you at that time, and we can keep a few things consistent too for you.
And Tana, you'll be able to walk through that with the board just as we introduce it. The one thing on other boards I've served on, sometimes the board members might have specific things they'd like to add into the dashboard. And so if we could have you come in and do that, as well as the cash flow model, that'd really be great.
Sure.
Brendan, getting back to that, and again, we talked about this last time, as we start seeing changes and things coming in above and below budget, I think this model is going to be great, because I would expect this board will weigh in on if we do have things that are coming in more expensively, that we would look at a number of options to offset that in different areas. And I know the one that came up last meeting, what surprised everybody, was baggage claim. And so that being just an example, I think I would certainly like to have the discussion if baggage claim is going to be cut back. I think that's a very visible part of the airport. I would at least like to see options of where else we might adjust to accommodate what, instead of cutting baggage claim.
Yeah, Chair Cosgrove, we did, and I know this was a while back. We've had a long journey up to this point. We had a list. We have a list, and we'll keep that list and evaluate, prepare and add to it if we have other opportunities of what we call value engineering items. It will. We won't go through any cardinal changes such as baggage claim. Cutting that out of the scope without coming to you first, most certainly. If there's other things like, opportunities to save with material modifications that the design team feels like that's you're still getting value for it and such, we'll make those judgments. That's what you hired us for. But if there's anything as far as like, cutting back on scope of what we're going to be covering, we would most certainly come to you.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Any other discussion? If not, we'll move on to item number 8. Authorize extension of listing agreement with Cityscapes Development for Eastside Terminal Office leases.
Rick is here, he's been our listing agent for some time, and one office, I think everything is pretty well full. We may have one other Penn's House maybe moving on here shortly, but it's been keeping it full. Request that you approve the listing agreement.
Mr. Chairman, how long is the extension?
Is there a motion?
So
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Item 9, Jill Gustafson, Indigo Signs, and Jody Duncan, Flint Group, to provide follow-up on electronic boulevard sign. RFP.
All right, I'm here to answer questions, and basically, we have a slide of what the proposed one is. By no means is this a final, is what that sign could be. It's what we move forward with to give you some numbers and so forth, what it is. The sign itself.
Which
What?
one do you want?
Oh, it's just, you can do whichever one you want, because they're all the same with different graphics on it. It's just to show the different graphics. Yeah, put the movie on to show that'd be great. Basically, what this is we were looking to see if options for adding a sign to the end to welcome people. It's your first impression of what the airport is. It's to say, here we are, turn here, this is the airport. Not only that, it has a message center. That message center can be used many, many, many different ways, whether it was advertising the flights that go out of here, whether it's the restaurants that are on here, whether it's telling them that valet service is available, go up to wherever, so all of those things can be used with the message sign. I'll answer any questions that you have on it. This particular design, this one has an 8mm EMC, which is basically top of the line. You can go 1 notch better, which is 6mm. Nobody in Fargo-Moorhead has a 6mm. This particular one has FAR letters are lit, Actor International Airport is lit, the 8mm, and this one, to provide an install, this one comes in at $263,750 is what the numbers are on this particular one. You could go a notch down on EMC, save roughly $14,000, $20,000, something like that. If you went to a 10mm EMC, the design can be tweaked. Here to help however I can, answer any questions or give you the pros and the cons of it.
Questions?
Jody, for you?
Oh,
Oh, go ahead.
So my first question is, I think we want to help marketing. So I think maybe, obviously this is good. How does this tie into their overall marketing? Does this help Fargo attract more customers?
Well, I think that's a good question, and I think it's gonna come down to what your priorities are from a budget standpoint. The video, there's lots of options to use that video. I don't know what your contracts are for selling ads and what the opportunities would be for that, so if there's
But
internal.
I think, my understanding, and not totally accurate, I don't believe, but I think if we put it up, we can let our tenants and people that are here advertise on it. We can't go outside this group. And so is that correct?
You couldn't sell to McDonald's
Right,
because they're not
right,
here.
right.
Anybody here could contribute to, no different than the strip malls that you have where the tenants help pay out because they
So I
want.
think the revenue side is something we really don't know, but we may, as airlines that are flying in and out of here, we may give them so much space on or so much time, or they may feel it's worth something. So I think, just to kind of move off the revenue side and income, I'm kind of assuming it's not going to be revenue. So again, getting back to our advertising and marketing, I know a lot of people use billboards, et cetera, a lot of people will pay for video signs. So I guess that's kind of my question, does that help us? Help you with your marketing?
I think from a brand perspective, it becomes like the gateway into the airport, right? So it's, especially during this phase of, it's new, everything's gonna be new, and you're gonna have this new and kind of exciting terminal. And so this is an opportunity for, that's gonna be the first thing that people see. I don't know that you're gonna have a ton of people drive by and be like, oh, I didn't know there was an airport here, or something like that, but we can reinforce all the brand messaging through that signage. But for attracting like someone in Jamestown, there's other marketing activities that will be meant to do that. I would look at this as a way of just really reinforcing your brand and the experience. And it feels very much like a gateway into the airport, right? Because it's gonna be the first thing that people see. And I've driven, I fly all the time. I have never paid attention to the sign there, and I think an electronic sign certainly is not gonna be missed when you're driving by.
Mr. Chairman, Stacy, does that come under our clear channel?
So just reviewing that, it talks about airport buildings and that advertising being in the buildings of the airport. So I think there's an argument to be made that this would be excluded. I'll look again more closely at it, but it defines it as the assigned space being within airport buildings.
And that contract goes for how long?
It's a couple more years left on the extension. So it went into effect in 2022, and it was a 5-year.
It was a 10-year, I believe.
So there's some time.
And with,
With the FAR on it, are we gonna end up with another court case like we did when we added international to Hector Field?
So I would research it more, but my initial thought is no, because you're using the call sign for the airport.
Okay, so, and how large is, I mean, this electronic sign, can you, because you're driving by it, can you even read it?
Oh, absolutely.
And is it going to obliterate the sign that's already there?
You would not be able to keep the sign that's on that short fence that's there.
On the piece.
Because this would have to announce it. Code will not allow you to have two freestanding signs. So the letters that are on the wall would have to be removed because they would not be able to be in conjunction with another freestanding within that distance. This sign itself, this message center is 6 feet by 172 inches, whoever has the math, to what, 14 feet, something like that? But clearly readable. I have overhead as far as your distance to the traffic lanes, you're probably anywhere from 135 feet to 270 feet for visibility. When I sell these to the people around town, anybody who is sitting at a stop light or a stop sign, it's a win. It's a huge win to have a message center there because you have captured attention. People are actually sitting there. So if they're heading down to an event at the Dome or whatever and they're waiting in traffic or going through, they will see the messages. They'll see that there's an air show. They'll see that there's a flight to wherever. They'll see the different messages that are put on there. Absolutely.
Mr. Chairman, our purpose of this is to be what? Whether we want to pursue this or not, is that kind of why it's on the agenda?
I believe it's either do or die.
So, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Berg, I'm the one that put it on the agenda, and this is something that we've been discussing. It was first presented back in October. And I think that there's a multi-purpose to having something like this. Number one, like Jody had said, just welcoming people to the airport and a part of the whole energy and excitement of a new terminal. Kind of a brand refresh, but also, and maybe Jill could speak to the number of people that travel down 19th Avenue North on a daily basis and how many looks we can get. So not only is it a welcome to the airport, but also I think it could provide assistance during our construction phase where we can encourage people to book their parking online or direct them to if East Economy is closed. And then I know maybe you could speak to the revenue possibilities that other airports have employed where they put in their lease, they also add, a certain number of ads that would help take care of the cost.
Sure, let me just be clear. So I'm wondering, is our process, are we gonna, I guess I'm unclear. So I think if we're saying we want to move forward with this, and I'm good with that, we're not saying we want that specific design or sign, just that we want to take it to the next.
We took one just so we could put numbers to it, so you could see what it was. You could look at it and go, you know what, Jill? Yeah, we like something like that, and we'll cap it at 250. We need a design, or this is what we have, or whatever.
We're looking for
Yes.
just a decision by the board if we want to move forward. It's not fine over to put a lot of time and energy in it. If we don't like it, we should say we absolutely don't like it.
Right,
Now,
if you have no desire to have a sign out there or a message center, now would be the time to say whether or not you want to do
Let
that.
me just ask you, what would be the next steps that you would go through with the business? Let's say the business says, we want to explore it more. What would be the next steps that you would need to take us through to get that final decision?
Basically, probably a budget number that you're comfortable with, so that we would know that kind of thing. The parameters as far as the design things you like. You want it to say this, you don't want it to say that kind of thing. So we could come back with designs that you could actually look at. So any input in actually design. If you look at that design and say, you know what, no, I don't like anything that's got an angle like that, no way, I don't want that. I don't want the FAR letters on there, I don't want to do this. We might change our logo, how do we make it look so that we have a different logo? You just have to tell me what the guidelines that you want to work with.
So I would say, Mr. Chairman, with that, I would move that we go to the next step in this process, not making any final decisions on the amount or the book or anything like that, but I would move that we go to the next step on the 1910 signage.
Motion been made, is there a second?
I second, but I would just like to clarify. So when you say move forward, then do we ask Jill to go back to the drawing board and present the board with more options?
Well,
Or are we saying we will commit to putting a sign of some sort through our RFP with Indigo?
I'm saying we'll move forward with what Jill laid out as the next steps. If we end up with something that's 500,000, we think it looks ugly, we're not gonna do it. So, I mean, I don't wanna say that we absolutely have to do it, but I think we need more information to make that final decision. So that's the motion I would make. And I think the other thing is it would be good for us to do a little more work outside of the committee too. And so we get some of these details figured out, but is that?
Like a sign committee?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very difficult for us as a board to get through all these. I mean, I'd like a recommendation to come from staff. If we just say we want a sign, I'd like them to bring that forward. But that's a whole different situation. Right now, my desire, my motion is just to take to that next level that Jill laid out.
Yeah, and so if I get input from you all, whoever what you want it to look like, if you have a budget cap, if you have those kinds of things, I just need input as far as giving you maybe the next design or whatever. If I kind of read that that's kind of what you're looking for, is maybe other design options or something.
Yeah, I would say it's probably two things. One, it's like, what are the different pricing levels and what does that mean?
Sure.
And, you know, I think that decision then, what kind of design parameters do you want? I mean, to me, it seems like those are logical things. Are we willing to spend X amount? Then you design a sign around that.
And I maybe,
Go ahead.
if it helps at all, Daktronics is who I'm working with to present to you, because you also have Daktronic
Sure.
here. So it's Daktronics that we're using. Daktronics is probably a time frame of roughly about 8 weeks or something like that. So you have a time frame, and if you were to pull the trigger on something, you're probably looking about 2 months out, something like that, in order to put something up, just so you know if you really wanna have it in there as things are starting to, you wanna direct traffic and tell people there's the valet and all of that, if you wanna use it for the purposes of that, just make sure that you allow 2 to 3 months before you'd have a sign in place.
Commissioner Strang.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just curious, is your board changing the logo or the name of the airport, or what?
I hope not, no.
Or what's the timeline of that process of discussion relative to branding?
Good question. Well, Mr. Chairman, I think the branding shift is FAR. That's our international airport logo. Hector International Airport's not changing. So that will always be but it's not gonna be as prominent as maybe FAR. Is that?
Well, FAR is just our call sign.
Yeah, we proposed a logo refresh. If you're gonna do something, now is the time to do it in conjunction with the expansion. That didn't, I don't even know where that ended up. I think we just kind of ended the discussion without a decision one way or the other.
And my thinking is that if there is a brand modification, do that proactively before you start really putting it out there. I just didn't know, but you know, if this would suggest to me you're all landed where you are with your current brand or your present or whatever brand, and that has to be settled, I would assume, for sure, and maybe it is.
Well, I'll direct the answer to our attorney.
Well, like I said before, I think having the FAR is not gonna be a problem legally. If you wanna move to the position, if you want to change the name somehow, and I think the answer is no, to Faro Hector International Airport, I think that is gonna involve court.
Yeah, and we end up in court.
I'm not saying it can't happen, it's just gonna create a whole other step. But I'm not saying it can't happen either.
Dr. Shannon.
I'm hesitant to jump in on a first meeting, but something that hasn't been mentioned before. In my previous life, we're probably the single largest landowner proximal to 19th Avenue. And ADSU had been very hesitant to do any development knowing that 19th is going to be widened and substantially changed in a nearer versus farther future. And I would want to put that caution on the table of putting in a sign when we don't know what's going to happen on 19th. The sign might be in 19th, it might be blocked by 19th. My understanding is that if there will be leveled out, so how is the sign proximal to this unknown development in 19th? And I'd want to be cautious that we're not doing a very expensive signage that might be largely negated by the widening of 19th.
I know that a lot of things were talked about as far as advertising. And we cannot advertise, right?
Cannot, it is not a billboard, you cannot have any off-premise advertising. This would be permitted as an on-premise, just like any other strip mall and so forth. Any activity or anything associated with the airport, that copy can be on there. If you start selling it to somebody that's not here, if you sell it to the McDonald's or if you sell it to Holiday Inn and they're not here, that's off-premise advertising, and this is not, would not be permitted as an off-premise. That's the difference,
You know,
non-premise
Mr.
versus
Chairman,
off-premise.
Jill, I think
Just a minute.
you're first.
Mr. Chairman, Jill, could you speak to what would happen if 19th Avenue were to be widened?
If this sign were sitting in the way, and I probably relocated 4 or 5 signs in my 30 years or whatever, the relocation of a sign would be at the expense of, not the airport, it's at the expense of the state or the federal or whoever it is that's widening the road. And it would be relocated with that, so, but it could change.
I don't chance.
I just did 2 on Main Avenue because the state did it, but you're the legal, I'm not the legal on that, but it would be put on the property of the airport. It can't be put in a right of way, it's not put in an easement, it's none of that. So this sign would be set back from the property line, set back from the easements that are on there. Have the overhead map of that, but it would not be in an easement, there's a lot of space in between that and the road. As far as a dip being done and all that I don't know. Yes, obviously there's, it's a pretty straight road, it's not like they're changing a curve or something.
And Mr. Chairman, can I add one more thing, I'm so sorry. One more thing. I asked earlier about how many people would, I mean, we talked about, with Atlanta, how many people see a newspaper ad or a magazine ad or hear a Spotify ad or a TV commercial? How many people, do you think that this is good exposure, like dollar for looks a day? And then I think that there's people in Fargo that don't realize, for instance, that we're flying nonstop to Nashville. And this would be an opportunity to not just tell passerbys that are utilizing 19th Avenue about, our gift shop or our parking website or our parking lot may be closed due to construction, but also that we have a nonstop service to Nashville or Orlando.
Real estate and billboards go off of traffic counts. The traffic counts at the end of the driveway are probably anywhere from 19,000 going one way, 17 the other, with say 1.5 persons per car. So that's the amount of views that you get. So you have 25,000 views basically every day is kind of how you look at it. And that's how you buy billboard advertising, that's how you pay for higher rents on a piece of property and so forth based on the number of cars that go by. So you've got 25,000 views every day in the sign, which is good traffic count.
John?
Mr. Chairman, Stacy had asked you to visit with Fargo and the city, because there is some exceptions, and the Air Museum has a great board that does off-premise advertising. So somehow there's a way that this is getting done. Air Museum, I don't know, you can see off-premise advertising there. I believe in the dome what they're doing is any climate tenant suite hole becomes on-premise advertising. And I don't believe that it's strictly prohibited. Because the city is our partner, and the city sometimes has different rules for itself than the general public. That's the polite way to say that. I know there's a different arrangement with the home, and their words.
Your museum, Applebee's sponsors the sign, Jim, you're on the board, that's how they grow that. Applebee's is a contributor to your museum.
Well, and we could have contributors here. So, I mean, there are ways, I think, that we should at least look at it. Again, if we go to the city and say, hey, this is the revenue, we'd like to be willing to do this. That's my request.
Okay, there's a motion before the floor and a second. Could you repeat the motion, please? I think.
John's good at rewriting it.
Commissioner Bird moved to the next step on the 1911
And there's a second, and I'm gonna call for a roll call vote on this.
Mr. Chairman, could we get staff's input on this? Seems like we haven't gotten.
Somebody's gotta maintain the sign every day, and I know we didn't talk, you mentioned, how much is it gonna cost to put a message out there?
Yeah, so it's probably gonna be 5 to 10 hours a week, likely, with changing those messaging. And there's ways they can do it to make it more efficient, have some messaging created up front and then just swap those in and out. It's a fairly seamless process.
It's a seamless, I talked to Blue Cross Blue Shield yesterday, who have new ones on theirs, and he said that they probably put in about 15 hours a month between creating the ads and putting the ads up there is probably what they put into it. And they use theirs exceptionally well. It's as good as what it is. So, but the program itself is very, very easy to use and can be managed from anywhere. It's by the book.
A number of meetings ago, Ricky had asked that we find an overall sign guru for everything. And then we contact Terry Stroh. Terry had spoke with us that TL Stroh and Blocker are taking care of the parking messages that you would see as you turn off of 19th Avenue and head towards the terminal. Parking available, level 2 or whatever it may be, so that there's parking. So we talked about in the terminal building, Clear Channel is our person in the terminal building for that. But as far as like this sign here, it's like we just couldn't find an overall sign. But it comes back to Norm Robinson is who this board engaged for somebody to put on marketing for the airport. If you want Norm's opinion, I'm sure that he would express it on this opportunity here. He's been in the business for many years, a lot of people know him. But he, if you want his perspective, I think that would be pretty valuable.
Well, again, we're basically, I think the motion is to approve electronic signage on the entrance of the airport. We're gonna get more input, it would be good to have to.
Would you like Norm's input on his opinion on investment?
Yeah, well, again, there's professionals out there and all this stuff, and I would like those people's opinion. But I think at the same time, it should be clear in the motion for electronic signage at the entrance.
And
So,
Mr. Chairman and Mr. Berg, we already have Flint that we trust with our marketing overall. And I don't know why we would need to pay for another thing.
I'm gonna call a question and call for a roll call vote.
Alright, sorry.
Excuse me.
Mr. Chair, I don't know if it's appropriate, but can we add to the motion subject to the legal research and analysis of the proposed sign, just so we're able to get through.
you know, my motion is taking the next step. Maybe we'll find out about anything else that might be out there.
Okay. Roll call, please. Oh, excuse me.
Clarification, I want to make sure I'm hearing what you're saying, because a minute ago you said something else.
Okay.
Are you saying for us to move forward with studying this, or we're doing it in?
Well, I mean, that's a good point. My original thing was to go forward to the next step that Joe laid out.
So this is approving doing it, it's the next step, considering.
Yes. That was my original motion. Now, if we need to be more specific, do that, but I think we should just.
You have no sign, there's nothing, you haven't approved anything until you have, this is a sign that we wanna build and you are willing to put this money, you haven't committed to anything as far as, until you have something in front of you that, yeah, we wanna build that out there. That's how I look at it, you can say right now you wanna move forward with an electronic message center, but if you never tell me you found something that you liked that we presented,
We wouldn't go forward.
you're not going
You
forward.
see it as the same thing.
That's how I look at it, I'm not gonna leave this meeting going, they're buying a message center. It's, no, you're still entertaining it, you got questions to answer yet that have come up today. I will do my due diligence based on some feedback from you all, as far as if we were to go forward, this is kind of what we'd like it to look like, or can you do it this way? That's how I'm interpreting what you're laying out there.
So, Mr. Chairman, thanks, that's, I guess my motion was to move forward with that stuff.
Okay, the motion's been made and it's been seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Rashani,
Because of my concern.
Yes.
Osborne.
Aye.
No. Number 10, Ivy Orlander, introduction regarding art in the terminal project.
Good morning. I realize we are after time. I know that we had hoped to maybe extend this if some were available. Apologies. Shall I stay on track with 10 minutes hopefully? Does the committee have that? Yeah. Sounds good. Great. And then are you driving the presentation? Okay, thank you. All right. Well, as we pulled it up, thank you for having me today. I apologize in advance, I've been getting over a long bout of things, so my voice is a little funny today. But I drove up from Sioux Falls last night. I'm so pleased to be connected to this project. We have Brad Bachmeyer initially, Tanya, Paula, I have some connections here at Fargo that I'll share as well. I also have joining me on the call Elena Hardy. She's in Sioux Falls also. She's a design partner of mine on many projects. So excited today to talk about art enhancements with that potential at the airport. But honestly, it's a great opportunity to build on the conversation we just had because art is really just our conduit for communicating messaging. As much as I am an unabashed art supporter, I will also say, we're really using the arts as a tool to communicate to our passengers. And so ensuring that it's connected with your branding messaging, your architectural design partners plan. We're looking for opportunities to make the traveler experience really unique and really special. So with that, we'll start the presentation here. Elena will probably just be listening in initially, but she'll be available for questions after the presentation as well. Again, we just want to discuss today what the opportunity looks like ahead of you here with this incredible building project. And kudos to you for embarking on this. The architecture is beautiful. It's exciting to see your design. On the next slide here, I just want to share a little bit about Elena and I. Again, I have an art and environmental design consulting company. By environmental design, I'm not talking about LEED or green certification, but rather the totality of the environment. There's kind of this layer that lives somewhere between architecture, interiors, and art. Again, that allows us to bring together brand, messaging, and that whole experiential component. Elena is an interior designer. She's got extensive experience, both of us, in healthcare rather, as well as other aspects of commercial design. We're both evidence-based design practitioners as well. Because we work a lot in healthcare and dollars are scarce, we understand very deeply how important it is to justify any expenses on art. It's not just for beautification. And so we use a process of research and analyzing data to support our design decisions, ultimately providing an ROI for our design partners. So Sanford has been a client of mine for almost 20 years now. And ever since the first project in 2007 that I worked with them, I've never not been continuously working on a project. So they clearly have understood deeply and adapted the value of what this brings to their healthcare environments. Our next slide Just want to talk a little bit, briefly, we can touch on this later, but experience in Fargo-Moorhead, I will say my parents met in second grade in Dilworth in grade school. My dad was a cobber, my mom was a spud, and then an NDSU football cheerleader. We have families spread from West Fargo to Dilworth, and I have spent almost as much of more holidays in Fargo than in Sioux Falls, where I live actually. So really enjoy the community, obviously connected to Sanford, and I manage the art acquisitions for the large medical center project that opened up in 2017. Elena is an NDSU graduate as well, and she cut her teeth. I think she had her first internship or job with TL Stroh. Both of us have also worked extensively in Bismarck, and she's done a number of projects in Grand Forks as well. And today I'm here to talk, we'll advance to the next slide as well, about art and the airport. But just to give you a little bit of background first, and I'll try to move through this quickly for the sake of time, but I just wanted to touch on, again, that local connection. These are a few images from the Fargo Medical Center project, which was a fantastic opportunity to work with dozens of artists in your community. Again, it wasn't just about beautifying the building, it was about understanding what patients need when they're in a space that's out of their control. And so looking for moments to provide positive distraction, to provide respite, really identify throughout the building, before we talked anything about what our art would look like, what type of experience did we want people to have? What were the places where they needed a break? What were the places that they needed to feel calm and centered? What were the places where they just needed to step away and maybe forget about the reason that they were there for a few moments? And so that's how the process always starts with our projects. Ultimately, you're looking at some of the outcomes here. For example, on the left, local artist Janet Flom is a mosaic and stained glass artist. She's done a lot of liturgical projects, but these are mosaic, modeled after actually a really cool airport project in Texas with these huge monolithic mosaic projects. And from a distance, it all highlights the beauty of your prairie region, the flora and fauna. As you get up close, however, you can see the image in the center is a tiny little ladybug. She has prompts on the wall that encourage viewers to find the 16 ladybugs hidden in the murals, or to count how many different little critters are in the foreground. And so again, we're really trying to use this as a tool to draw people in and create an interactive experience. We also had a rotating gallery space at the medical center. I can speak to that, as well as the London Sioux Falls Airport. And of course, just creating opportunities for calm, moments of reflection. In the emergency department, which is a high anxiety space, Kimball Bromley, who's a local professor, created some very large oil paintings highlighting the lakes region. Again, just working with your artists and your communities to bring the space to life. Next slide is a few more images I just wanted to touch on. Really talented stained glass, Stacy Asp, stained glass artist from your area here just outside of Fargo, created the beautiful liturgical scene about the four seasons, really rooted in nature. We have at the bottom left, Brad Bachmeyer, who's here today. I've actually commissioned several works from Brad on different projects, both in Sioux Falls and Fargo. He's been a fantastic partner with us and brought his three-dimensional ceramic works to life on our walls. A little picture in the bottom, I just wanted to call out, this was one area of the hospital that we talked about getting into the local community. Look at where your travelers are coming from and said, how do we make sure they feel that they have a little bit of ownership in this place? This happened to be, of course, the Moorhead Dairy Queen, which I think the opening day has probably long since happened, is always a big celebrated event in town. And so we wanted to make sure that people saw things that they could relate to while they're in a hospital for their journey. Star Walwinkle is a Native American contemporary artist, created some unique pieces for us. The pieces in the bottom right, I just wanted to share again, we're looking to stretch our dollars, obviously, especially in healthcare. Those were pieces that were created as small originals, and we talked about the lakes, the prairies, the badlands. We looked at the area, the geographies that span the Sanford footprint here, and then recreated them as large-scale wall murals with waterproof material on the walls. With that, we'll go to our next slide. Talking specifically about airports and why this matters, I will share and circulate this presentation. The blue link is a hyperlink. If you click on that, it's a very recent LinkedIn post by a gentleman who works in the aviation industry. Highly recommend it. It was just published April 11th. And I pulled all of these quotes from his article, but it was talking about why airports are doing this. Not just for the sake of making your spaces pretty, and not just because we have so many excess dollars to spend in a construction project, because that's never the case. But, you know, we have Martin Greenberg, aviation historian, talking about how, you know, there's a really conscious effort to humanize what were once sterile environments. This really started as a movement in the 1950s or 60s. Things were very utilitarian, they were practical, but we understand travel is about so much more than that, and it starts at the airport. It's a part of your experience and your journey. I would say, especially in the era of social media, the power of an Instagrammable space is worth so many marketing dollars. I'm sure your marketing partners will tell you that as well, but to create an environment that people want to capture and share with the world is an incredibly valuable tool. You know, everyone from Richard Branson to travel writer Elaine Green talking about the journey is as important as the destination. The space can speak volumes about the identity and values of a community, and every piece of art is situated with intention. So again, I'm happy to speak more in depth, but these are an important part of our process, which is the foundation of how we build the art collection. Next slide. I just wanted to point out a couple of things before we, you know, you guys have probably seen a number of these trending. It's happening. It's a part of design projects in the airports. Upper left is from the Minneapolis airport. People always think I'm really weird standing outside of the bathrooms taking pictures, but they have every restroom there has these incredible mosaic tile walls, and I just love these. This on the left is Michael Swear, who's an artist out of Minneapolis, who you'll see some work he did from the Sioux Falls Airport. Just to the right of that, you can see a rotating exhibit. I thought the upper right is an interesting example. They created a space with kind of a contained environment for kids that highlights Minnesota children's book authors. You know, they're using QR codes to connect you to your local arts organizations and arts events to tell people what's happening. And not only inside the airport walls, but on the outside as well. The mesh screen you can see on the bottom right has the image of the faces of local people that you see as you're going along the escalator between different terminals. The next slide, again, just a few international, I mean, these are just pictures I've taken on some travels I've been fortunate to be a part of, but the importance of creating a sense of place. You know, there are parts of the hospitality industry that I think are really designed to be universal. So whether you're in Fargo or Boston, you know, there are hotels designed to just make you feel at home and comfortable, like it's a familiar place. Within the travel industry in particular, I think that what you'll see is the trend is much more toward creating a very curated and unique sense of place. So what is it about your community or your airport location that really defines who you are in that traveler experience? Upper left is just some kind of fun Delftware inspired wild restaurant sort of lounge booths that were in Amsterdam Airport. Beneath that, they actually have an annex of the world famous Rijksmuseum, so you can get a little taste of the kind of museum experience you have millions of travelers going there for each year. As well as in the middle image was also in Amsterdam at Schiphol Airport, and these cool little, you know, Delft pieces as you go down. This is in the Delta lounge there. Beneath that, you can see a couple of images. Those were in Delta Lounge at LAX. You know, they look very California. On the right-hand side, they have a great booklet of their art that, you know, Sunset Boulevard, iconic pieces that tell you about, you know, why you're in LA. The upper right, I think, was from LaGuardia and their recent expansion. You can't see this little cut off, but incredible mosaic imagery of Brooklyn and the history of Manhattan and Brooklyn and different parts of the boroughs of the city. The bottom right is just one I adored. I had an opportunity, incredible opportunity in December to travel to Dubai with a layover in Charles de Gaulle, and this massive cat taking a cat nap. It's maybe a stretch for some of us Midwesterners, but there were so many people taking pictures of this and sharing pictures of this and tagging the airport. It was just really cool to see them highlighting it in such a way. Next slide is specifically about the work that at the Sioux Falls Regional Airport that I had an opportunity to do. It started because prior to their renovation project, the expansion project, I've worked with them in a couple different phases of this over the years, but the existing space had become a bit tired, I will say. There were an abundance of, you know, old three-dimensional cases filled with advertising objects that were kind of oak from the 1980s. We had the Joe Foss sculpture at the center of the lobby, which is so important to the airport, but there was no information about who he was or why his significance. We were missing the opportunity to tell his story. And then, to be honest with you, there was just sort of a proliferation of advertisements. And that was a tough obstacle for us initially because I understand that that generated revenue, but at the cost of owning the identity of the airport. And so we were able to partner with their internal advertising company to say, how can we update the method with which we're displaying these advertisements, can be more thoughtful about where they're located, so that your whole travel experience isn't just being sort of blasted with strange, restaurant imagery and whatever advertisers were coming in. And I think that they realized early on that there was value in sort of harnessing how that was managed, and we're still able to work with them, bring in and generate revenue, but in a little more updated fashion. So that work started with what I call a space audit and a needs assessment. We really walked through and said, again, in the physical space and eventually on plan, where are the spots in the airport you need respite? Where are the spots that you want to be distracted? Where are the spots where you're looking for, what do I do when I get here? And we started building around that for our art plan. We collaborated with some local arts institutions. We worked with our arts council. I know Tanya's here as well. And we were very thoughtful about how can we highlight their work in the arts, but be respectful of their time and what their commitment is to their organization, and make sure that we were building and designing things that were easy for them to manage on an ongoing basis. Ultimately, we built the vision for what we wanted for the artwork, and then we brought it to community partners, and we had incredible sponsorship. Sanford Health was obviously a big sponsor, not only for a children's play space I'll show you, but also they gave us a very significant gift for our biggest art acquisition, which was an incredible 226-foot by, I want to say 8-foot, or maybe they were 52-foot by 8-foot mosaic pieces. And they had asked in return very minimal. In fact, I don't think they asked anything, but we created a small placard of appreciation. They just wanted to make sure that as they're flying guests in from outside and around the world, we were putting our best foot forward in the airport. And then of course engaging our regional artists and highlighting culture. So again, think about the artists in your communities, the communities that your patrons and flyers are coming from. How do we celebrate them? Next slide. Just briefly, this was phase 1. This was before the big full expansion, but this was the first opportunity. As I mentioned, Joe Foss Field and our air base, our Air National Guard base are located out there as well. And we have the statue. No one under the age of probably 50 knew who he was or what the story was. And so, yes, I would imagine you would. I mean, he was a governor. I think he was the first NFL commissioner, and he was a World War II hero. But also, we wanted to celebrate the Wildcats and the Air Base, or the National Guard. And so we have a cafe and had an opportunity to work with our design team and marketing partners, named it the Wildcat Lounge. We integrated historical imagery into contemporary mural that's on the outside to help with identity and branding, into the tabletops, into you can see this is sort of a plexiglass wall partition that has the image of Joe Foss. So we were able to do a lot more to actually tell the story of who he was, who the Wildcats were, and why they were significant. So this was really the first step we took in updating anything in the airport. And I think when they saw this come to light, they suddenly, like, that aha moment clicked. And they realized the power of bringing together their marketing partners, the design team, and the arts and creative team as well. Next slide then shows a little bit about, these are just a couple of art highlights. I have plenty more pictures, but eventually we embarked on commissioning not a high number, but large scale. It may not look like in the images, but most pieces were at least 10 or 12 feet wide, but artwork from our regional artists. And they are each significant in a unique way to tell the story of aviation in our community. And how it's unique. So for upper left image, for instance, the artist, Nancy Jane Poole, her grandmother was one of the first female pilots in the state of South Dakota. So that's her grandmother's old pilot's license. And the piece is titled Eileen da Vinci's Dreams of Flight, talking about her grandmother's dreams of flight early on, and relating it back to Leonardo da Vinci and his early drawings and creations of flying devices. She's a beautiful painter. Iyo Gonja, upper right, is an Ethiopian gentleman who's been living in Sioux Falls for almost 30 years now, incredible contemporary artist, reinterpreting the plains and the bison in kind of an unexpected and colorful way. Michael Swear, who I mentioned, did those mosaic pieces in the Minneapolis airport, also did these incredible hammered tin murals. That bottom left is he and his father with the clouds and the landscape. And as you approach, you discover all these interesting things from vintage cookie tins and things that he had collected from shops throughout the Midwest. And really looking, of course, we all know how beautiful jewelry is, but trying to highlight it in different ways, imagery on metal prints, things that are really vivid, skyscapes, etc. I have one more slide of a few of these pictures. I just wanted to highlight, these are really significant. If you have an opportunity to visit the Sioux Falls Airport, these mosaic murals are on the upper walls. It's kind of hard to tell from these pictures. You view them as you go up and down the escalators, and they're huge. And these were really incredible. We worked with a local professor from Augustana University who's done a lot of work in public art commissions, especially airports. Terrazzo, three-dimensional sculpture work. He created them digitally, and then they were fabricated by a company called Mosaica out of Canada that hand paints all of these individual pieces of ceramics and glaze to match what the artist's vision is, and then creates it out of mosaic materials. So watching those be installed on site was incredible. They also, to me, were a bit reminiscent of your probably most significant artist, I would say, out of the state of South Dakota. Would you say so, Brad and Tanya? John, oh gosh.
You mean in North Dakota?
In North Dakota, I'm sorry, James Rosenquist. Yes, in North Dakota, sorry, thank you. I know that he did an incredible piece for the North Dakota, for the Plains Art Museum, NESU, which stylistically, he usually does these sort of composites of images, and it was sort of night sky and space. I don't know what the rights are to that, but even the fact, I think most people would be surprised that James Rosenquist, one of the preeminent pop artists from America, is from North Dakota. And so to give nod, for instance, to the Plains Art Museum by having some way to experience that here would be so cool. So anyway, just ideas that are bubbling. The next image that I'll go to again, I think this is maybe the last from our Sioux Falls. I just wanted to note we worked on creating a changeable rotating gallery. This is currently managed or updated by the South Dakota Artists Alliance. It's a group that they work with. We know the exact layout of these panels. They're changeable. This is original artwork within them. This current exhibit is highlighting, I think it's called the towns of our area. And basically they go out to the small towns, again, the communities that are feeding the airport that people are flying out of, and highlighting different things from their communities. This changes just once a year, so it's not burdensome. They are compensated for this, and it's paid for by the marketing partner. So you can see it's called the FSD Gallery. Media One is the marketing partner. They're very happy to put their name on it. They also have the tools and abilities to photograph the art. They update it on the website. It's a really important highlight that we celebrate at the airport. And then they've committed to growing their permanent collection annually by adding a piece each year. The upper right image is one of those. Following this slide, I think do we have one more of the, again, just wanted to mention those community engagement and partnership opportunities are incredibly valuable. You just have to be very thoughtful about how you approach them. Again, you don't want to create a burden for those partners. I know sometimes in the arts we're quick to say, hey, let's have students change these out, or let's, and it's all well intended, but it's a lot of work and you want it well done and well executed. So bringing in your community partnerships, creating a vision for things that gets businesses excited, makes it very easy to raise money for it. When you say, hey, we want to raise money for art, yeah, it's a tough sell, but when you say we have this incredible vision, take a look at how we think we can impact the traveler experience. We've had incredible success with having partners like Sanford, with banks, agriculture, universities stepping forward and saying, we want to be a part of that. We want our travelers to come here, know we're committed to making this experience exceptional. One of these partnerships I just wanted to show, I heard that you have an opportunity with a play space. Elena and I had one as well in Sioux Falls. We were approached by Sanford and asked to design and update a play space for them in the airport in a small existing space. The next slide shows a little before and after. On the left is the before. It was kind of an outdated mural. They had a little electronic table that was sometimes in disrepair and had a cord taped to the floor, and a TV screen. It was pretty unexciting, and it was sometimes operational, sometimes not. They were ready for something new. So they tapped Elena and I, because we've done a lot of work with them on various projects. It's a small footprint. It's only 600 square feet of space that we had to sort of re-envision. We had the beauty of natural windows, but also the challenge sometimes that can create when you want to incorporate, projected imagery or things of that nature, and I can talk about how that can be accomplished however. But we were also tasked with creating an environment where there was no focus on electronics. They said, as a parent, especially parents with small children, we want to save that precious iPad time for when they're on the plane and they can't move. So we don't want them to use it all up, their hour a day or whatever while they're sitting here waiting. We want them to get out, move, wiggle, move their bodies, and engage in healthy activities. So the next slide shows a couple more highlights. We will focus on multi-sensory and safe play. That was another thing, of course. They said the last thing we want is a family going to Florida for a great vacation and bust their chin open on the slide on the way out of town. Durable finishes, easy to maintain, relatable imagery, and strong sense of place, again, and both mental and physical engagement. So within this display space, we did have, the next slide shows a couple of just our pre-construction drawings. And then additionally, I think on the next slide, we have some things. It starts when kids arrive. You can see on the bottom right picture, there's a little passport book. They get to take that with them on the plane. It has games and activities. So it's not just something they experience in the space, but it keeps them engaged. And it's a great marketing extension a lot while they're traveling to talk about their journey. Santa Fe wanted to focus on, again, healthy activities, so we created these little I Spy stickers that you'll see in that upper middle that give facts about health and moving your body, about your eyes and vision, and we connected with elements of the design. It's a kaleidoscope that shows them a world of colors, and it has facts about how many colors your eyes can see. There's a button on the tree that has an audible bird noise, and it talks about, it prompts children to listen, they hear planes taking off and birds, and teaches you about your ability to hear. And so really, there's a layer of this that I think is very important. Just the big, bold design expressions are one part of it, but the facts are really important to engaging kids. I think we're close to wrapping up here. So this is our last slide. I tried to talk as fast as I can.
You said that before already, this is our last slide.
Yeah, this really is. But as you can see, there's a lot that we wanted to share. So this is an overview. I'm here basically to present to you. I think you have an incredible opportunity ahead of you with this project. And I think that as we've learned today, having an opportunity to discuss messaging and intentionality about how you use your space can inform your branding, your signage, your artwork, this next layer of things that will make this a truly unique experience. I'd love to be your partner in that part of the process, and whether we can go further than that or not, to be discussed as well. I also have, as I mentioned, Catalina on the call with her expertise in interiors, but I'm happy to provide any follow-up remotely, in person, and to stay further for discussion as well.
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, bear with me. My first ever encounter with the Airport Authority was about 10 years ago. I wrote an editorial in my newspaper of all the places I've traveled and examples of art in other airports. And then Brad Wimmer, who became a city commissioner, and I suggested ideas of what we could do with art in our airport. You were here in Mac Evers, and I forget who else, General Mac or whatever, but it was like 7 in the morning, which I remember. But I had all these examples, and Brad Wimmer latched onto one of them, just one example of I suggested we should have a statue of Carl Van Eielson, one of the world's most famous aviators from Hampton, North Dakota. They claim him as an Alaskan resident. He's not, he's from here. We have a school named after Carl Van Eielson. Okay. So Brad's idea was we go to this world famous South Dakota sculptor and have him create a life-size sculpture, a piece of art of Eielson, and then we sell the little miniature replicas, numbered limited editions, and that's how we would fund the effort. And that's based on, and I'll stop right after this, but I'm from North Dakota, all right? I'm always, my whole life, paying attention to the people from North Dakota who've gone out into the world. I would love to have a place where we are reminded of people from our roots who've gone out and impacted the world. Just a real quick list while I'm sitting and then I'm done. And besides Carl Van Eielson, Angie Dickinson, Bill Jackson, Lawrence Welk, Phyllis Fralick, Peggy Lee, Roger Maris, Clifford Stills, James Rosenquist, Mike Keller, Shannon Kerman, Johnny Lang, Carson Wentz, Teddy Roosevelt, Warren Christopher, Fritz Scholder, PDQ Bach, Chuck Fosterman. There's a Jonason who's a famous opera singer, I forget the name, Tom Thompson, the former life. There's a list of North Dakotans that we could artistically represent. I'd love to see some of this incorporated. And lastly, this is exciting. to have artists, Brad Bachler here in the room, you know, to have artists help communicate our world to all these thousands of people, and also to prop up locally the importance of art as a career path and the impacts they can have. Thank you. And Paula, thank you for bringing this.
Well, the other one that you didn't mention is Charlie Klessig, who's from Fargo, and that's his airplane hanging out there.
There you
And I
go.
found in a barn and had the experimental aircraft people put it together and they donated it, as long as it hangs here.
I like that kind of stuff, Mr. Chairman.
His airplane, if you ever saw the movie The Blue Max, that airplane was in it.
Mr. Chairman, I really appreciate your presentation. You opened a lot of different avenues that we've looked for. What's our process? I mean, I know nothing about art, and I don't want to necessarily be the point person. How do we achieve, I guess maybe that's how we leave this. Maybe someone says, here's how we can achieve these things at the airport. Is that what we're looking for?
I think she's right in getting art in the airport. I agree with everything that was done here. I do think we're way ahead of ourselves right now. We haven't even put a spade in the ground yet.
Well, that's kind of my question, is let's get these in the right order. I mean, we have an architect for the terminal, we have an architect for the parking ramp, we've got an owner's rep for the terminal expansion. I guess I'd like to have staff go back to the owner's rep and say, you know, understand how Sioux Falls maybe went through this process, and is that a process we can use here to help identify?
Yeah, I'm happy to outline for you as well, because I manage the Sioux Falls project, and again, with all Sanford projects, we begin long before construction begins the process. I can give you an outline of that, but it involves, you know, bringing together, if you can imagine, I've got to bring together hospital executives, physicians, nurses, a whole bunch of people that know art expertise and understand how we can bring art in that will positively impact patients. So we do have a great process that brings all of those minds together, the architect, the general contractor.
Well, I guess I would like you to work with the staff to kind of lay that out.
Outline that,
I mean,
I'd be happy to.
Our challenge here as a board is we're a $193 million construction project.
Yeah.
That we have a lot of these things, and I just want to make sure that we have a process here that allows the board to make the right decisions as we're going forward. So I guess that would be my recommendation for sure.
Mr. Chairman, I know Brandon and Gina are online, and we're planning to meet after the board meeting, so we need one more time for Q&A without impacting the length of the board meeting. And so, I think maybe we can brainstorm a little bit about how to proceed, if that's our choice, or just to get more information.
Very good.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you for your extra time today, I
Good.
really appreciate it.
And the last item on the agenda, adjournment. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Motion carried.